Good morning. Too soon? We had our auction last night, and the wonderful balloon lady made me a tiara. Somebody just said it would make me, I look like I'm queen of the world, which I think, gotta say, things would be a little better if I were, but. You know, but power corrupts, so probably just as well. I'm Amy Zucker Morgenstern. My pronouns are she and her, and it's really wonderful to welcome you to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Palo Alto. We gather, our different paths entwined to deepen our spiritual lives, nourishing connection, learning from each other, caring for each other, tending to our worlds. Few announcements for us before we begin our service. Masks are not required, but we do strongly encourage them, especially if you or someone in your family is not feeling well. Actually, if you're not feeling well, stay home, watch on Zoom, take care of yourself and this space when lots of germs are still going around in the winter. But people have different takes on masking and distancing, so we express our mutual respect by supporting each other's decisions about that. Likewise, when it comes time to maybe hold hands at the end of the service and somebody gives you their elbows or just crosses their hands across their chest, it's not personal. That's where they feel about contact at the moment. If you're here in person and you have questions about Unitarian Universalism or this congregation, stop by the welcome table with the blue tablecloth out front and chat with Elsa or whoever else you find from the friendly, welcoming membership team there. You can leave your contact information to receive notifications of upcoming events. We have a weekly update so that you won't get spammed. You'll just get one nice newsletter of all the stuff going on. And if you've been thinking about joining the congregation, you can do that there today as well. You may notice, if you have been here before, we have new chairs. Woo! Thank you to the Campus Vision Task Force, and specifically the chair task force led by Jane Cronus that did a lot of work to pick the chairs for us. While they were inspected as they were coming off the truck on Thursday, and we think we caught the ones that might have been damaged in transport, as is inevitable, would you please take a moment to inspect your own chair, the fabric, the frame, the feet, now at the end of the service. And if you do see anything, this is the time to catch anything that needs to be replaced. So let Jeff Cashdollar, I know, go ahead, crawl under the chairs. This is your moment. Ask a child to crawl under your chairs. They love doing that. Let Jane Cronus, who's right here, or Jeff Cashdollar, who you usually can catch in the office in the morning. He's our administrator. Let them know that you found one that is a problem. A lot easier to deal with it now than another time. We had a vigil here Wednesday, really good for my heart. Thank you all who came or just expressed support. And during that time, we wrote fears we had and or commitments. Fears here on the left on these, I'm gesturing toward these sort of clotheslines, commitments on the right, related to the election and just how we're feeling about the state of the country and the world right now. It was really good to see them. We're going to put them all in a place where everybody can read them and take heart from our connections and make more connections with each other. So I invite you to do the same before you leave today. Between the two clotheslines, you'll find a basket of clothespins, markers, cards to write on there. And one more announcement: our new childcare provider, Brindley, is involved in a program called We Are Palo Alto, and it seems really consonant with what we're doing here. It is an in-depth discussion between youth and the mayor and some others on concerns, initiatives, and goals regarding the impact that these youth council members are creating within Palo Alto, free to the public, and there's more information about this in our pamphlet rack in the lobby over on that side. And now, let us begin our service.
Daring day, I'll let my child go gathering May. daring day, if he sleeps till dawn of day. The nightjar calls upon the heath. Daring day, the bittern booms in reeds beneath. Daring day, daring day, daring day, daring day, I'll let my child go gathering May. Daring day, daring day, he sleeps till dawn of day.
Cows go west at dawn of day. Daring day, daring day, my child will watch them lest they stray. Daring day, daring day, daring
Day, daring day, I'll let my child go gathering May. Daring day, he sleeps till dawn of day. The new moon meets the sun's last ray. Daring day, homeward cows will wend their way. Daring day, daring day, daring day, daring day, I'll let my child go gathering May. Daring day, if he sleeps till dawn of day. The nightjar calls upon the heath. Daring day, the bittern booms in reeds beneath. Daring day, daring day, daring day, daring day, I'll let my child go gathering May. Daring day, daring day, if he sleeps till dawn of day.
We light the chalice this morning with words from our own Reverend Kat Boyle. I encourage you to light a chalice at home if you've got one there. In these difficult times, we hold each other. We grieve and rage with each other. We link arms and we support the weak. We support each other. We love fiercely and refuse to submit to systems of injustice and cruelty to our loved ones and neighbors. We are in this fight together, all the way, with love at the center. And we light our chalice, the burning heart of this faith. With our centering words each week, we draw on the many sources of our living tradition. Today's words are from the novel Night Watch by 20th and 21st century British writer Terry Pratchett. We are here and this is now. Constable Visit, a strict believer in the Omnian religion, occasionally quoted that from their holy book. Vimes understood it to mean, in less exalted cop speak, copper speak, that you have to do the job that is in front of you. As we follow the sound of the bell into silence, we allow ourselves to arrive here fully.
Good morning. Good morning. I would like to invite all those who are young or young at heart to join me up on the colorful quilt for our story this morning. This is a story about hope. It is called Rain Before Rainbows, and it is by Sumitra Parastam Halls and illustrated by David Litchfield. Good morning. Hello, my friends. All right. So, rain before rainbows. Rain before rainbows. Clouds before sun. Oh, what's that animal with her? Anybody know? Looks like a fox. Night before daybreak. The old day is done. There are mountains for climbing, journeys to take. Hello, come on and join us. Whoop. Morning. Dreams that are hopeful and decisions to make. Do you see the fox and the stars? All right. Dark days may shake and worry us, and worries creep in, with dragons to duel and battles to win. Oh, you see those big dragons? Let's see what happens. Thunder will rumble, lightning will flash, the winds will start blowing, and tall waves will crash. Oh, look at that little fox. But there are footsteps to follow and words that are wise. There's a map that will guide us when troubles arise. There are friends who will help us, courageous and kind, a rope to hang on to, and treasure to find. Sowing and planting, roots before shoot, stem before flower, leaf before fruit. Rain before rainbows, clouds before sun, night before daybreak, a new day's begun. A day full of promise, a day full of light. The morning is breaking, and the morning is bright. Thank you for listening to my story this morning. We will now, I ask everyone to rise as they are able to join us in singing Spirit of Life, number 1, 2, 3 in your gray hymnal. And then after we sing, I will invite all my friends in religious education to join me in the lobby. Thank you.
Words are there in your order of service. blessed be. We have a hymn that is not in your hymnal, in your order of service, not in the print order of service anyway, but we are going to sing Meditation on Breathing. Would you start playing for us, Veronica? I've got a few things to say about that first, by way of introducing this hymn. I want to share these wise words from Ehime Ora. She says, you gotta resurrect the deep pain within you and give it a place to live that's not within your body. Let it live in art. Let it live in writing. Let it live in music. Let it be devoured by building brighter connections. Your body is not a coffin for pain to be buried in. Put it somewhere else. And so now with meditation on breathing, which is number 1009, and the words will be up here, as well as in the, that's where they'll be. And if you have the hymnal, there's 1009 in the teal hymnal. So let's begin by just singing the breathing in, breathing out, and then we'll add more music, melody, art, brighter connections. Will you rise in body or spirit? Our reading comes from an essay that Howard Zinn published in 2004. Zinn was a historian and political scientist, professor, and most notably writer of A People's History of the United States, which reclaimed some of the stories of people's movements in our history that are often left out of the history that we learn in school. The name of the essay is The Optimism of Uncertainty. In this awful world, where the efforts of caring people often pale in comparison to what is done by those who have power, how do I manage to stay involved and seemingly happy? I am totally confident, not that the world will get better, but that we should not give up the game before all the cards have been played. The metaphor is deliberate. Life is a gamble. Not to play is to foreclose any chance of winning. To play, to act, is to create at least a possibility of changing the world. There is a tendency to think that what we see in the present moment will continue. We forget how often we have been astonished by the sudden crumbling of institutions, by extraordinary changes in people's thoughts, by unexpected eruptions of rebellion against tyrannies, by the quick collapse of systems of power that seemed invincible. Looking at this catalog of huge surprises, it's clear that the struggle for justice should never be abandoned because of the apparent overwhelming power of those who have the guns and the money and who seem invincible in their determination to hold on to it. That apparent power has again and again proved vulnerable to human qualities less measurable than bombs and dollars. Moral fervor, determination, unity, organization, sacrifice, wit, ingenuity, courage, and patience. dear friends, when I put this title on this blurb for the service on the website a couple of weeks ago, I was uncertain myself, as we all were, did not know where we would be this morning. I certainly hoped with all my heart that I would not be beginning, as I am, by saying that there is a very real threat of fascism in our country. As you know, if you heard my sermon about this a couple months ago, that is not a word I take lightly or throw around like just a mean name to call somebody when they're being a jerk or domineering. I mean fascism, a fascist government. And in just a few days, we've had examples aplenty. Nick Fuentes, avowed neo-Nazi, who enjoyed a private dinner with the former and incoming president in the White House a few years ago, has already been making predictably misogynist responses to the election. God, I hate to utter these words from this sacred place, but if you haven't heard them, you need to know. Your body, my choice. Racist texts have gone out to African Americans all over the country. As some of us learned when we got alerts from, in some cases, our school districts saying we support students and families involved in our congregations, in our schools and our communities who have received these anonymous racist texts all over the country. And of course, for years now, we have been seeing the scapegoating of people like immigrants and trans folks. All of these are clear markers of fascism. Racism, misogyny, rigid social hierarchies, and scapegoating of the vulnerable. Listen to Trump's speeches about migrants and just fill in the word Jews whenever you hear migrants, and you have the same dynamic as we saw in the 1930s. A French saying claims that every country gets the government it deserves. But I don't think anyone deserves fascism. People who have long been devoted to the Republican Party deserve a party that represents their views. People who have never voted Republican in their lives deserve a debate partner, a conversation partner, a opponent and wrestler in the legislatures who is equally devoted to observing elections and accepting their outcome. And the world does not deserve to have to deal with a fascist United States or even a U.S. that's tolerant of totalitarian governments elsewhere. Somebody, I won't use his name because I forgot to ask permission, but someone in our Sacred Text group on Wednesday asked the question, has any dominant power of the world, the dominant power, as we have been considered to be the single superpower for decades now, has it ever happened to the world that that country was fascist? Rome, somebody said, maybe, but as we know, Rome was only dominant over one small portion of the world. One hates to imagine it, but here we are. And as tired as we may be, as sad, as reluctant to take on the fight, as citizens of the United States, we are the best people to do it. We're here. We know this country. We thought we did. We have a vote and a voice. So we will be fighting fascism and learning how here at UUCPA. But it's okay if you're not in that place today. We had our vigil on Wednesday night, and people brought so many different feelings: numbness and grief and surprise and fatalism and stoicism, determination. Some came in with an energy, what are we going to do? Let's do it. Some just wanted to grieve and be with other people who were grieving. These and all reactions are valid, and there is room for all of them here. Something we can do for each other is try not to tell each other to be any different, in any different place than we are. One thing that some people do is immerse themselves in the postmortems. And that can be helpful. And again, I'm not going to tell you not to. People have been digesting them for me, which I find very helpful because I have not wanted to look at the news. That is not something I usually do. Just not look at the news and not listen to any analysis for a little while. So I appreciate that people are doing that, and I appreciate hearing some of the things they're saying because it's, of course, helpful. We try to learn from what has happened. But I will warn against one thing that can happen in this Monday morning quarterbacking that always follows an election. And that one thing is certainty. You see a whole lot of confirmation bias after any election, you know? People who have suspected, have worried for months, I don't know if this country will ever elect, or at least right now elect, a woman, Black, South Asian woman, can now say, oh yeah, that was it. And maybe they're right. We don't actually know. People who have thought, you know, a lot of working class people just feel left behind. They feel fed up. They don't see things like college loan forgiveness as helping them at all, and they want to see something different going on. Well, you can look at this election and say, there you go. That attitude won the day. And maybe that's partially right too. There are so many reasons that people vote the way they do and that we have the outcomes that we do, but we don't really know what they were. We just tend to glom onto the ones that fit the way we already think. Because we hate uncertainty. People just really hate uncertainty. There are studies showing that there are more stress responses in the body of someone awaiting biopsy results that might reveal cancer than there are in the body of someone who has just been told that they do indeed have cancer. That's how much we hate not knowing. And so we reach for certainty. And there's a place for that too. You know, we have to proceed, at least provisionally, saying, okay, I think this is what's happening and here I go. However, there are at least a couple ways that uncertainty is our friend in times like these. So one is the kind of thing that Zinn brings up. As a historian, as somebody who's studied the twists and turns of history, he wrote, again, this was in 2004, I think it's quite alive today, what leaps out from the history of the past 100 years is its utter unpredictability, a revolution to overthrow the Tsar of Russia in that most sluggish of semi-feudal empires, not only startled the most advanced imperial powers, but took Lenin himself by surprise and sent him rushing by train to Petrograd. Who would have predicted the bizarre shifts of World War II, he says. The Nazi-Soviet pact? And then the German army, in violation of that pact not long after, rolling through Russia, apparently invincible, causing colossal casualties, being turned back at the gates of Leningrad on the western edge of Moscow in the streets of Stalingrad, followed by the defeat of the German army. And then, just a few years later, the utter defeat of Hitler and his whole Third Reich. He says, no one foresaw the disintegration of the old Western empires happening so quickly after the war, or the odd array of societies that would be created in the newly independent nations, from the benign village socialism of Nyerere's Tanzania to the madness of Idi Amin's adjacent Uganda. Spain became an astonishment. I recall a veteran of the Abraham Lincoln Brigade, those leftists who worked for a Republican Spain against Franco before World War II. He says, I recall a veteran of the brigade telling me that he could not imagine Spanish fascism being overthrown without another bloody war. But after Franco was gone, a parliamentary democracy came into being, open to socialists, communists, anarchists, everyone, and so on and so forth. I recommend the essay. So many examples. We can think of examples in our own time. I'm reading a book that you will hear more from in the weeks to come called How Minds Change by David McRaney, and he begins with the astonishing turnaround of views about same-sex marriage in this country. Astonishingly fast. Again, we can analyze in retrospect what made that happen. He's got some thoughts. But very few people predicted it beforehand. Those who did were being pretty quiet. So, I, like Zinn, take some hope from the utter unpredictability of our world. We have seen movements in our own time that for good and ill, movements we were thrilled to see, movements that made us want to tear our hair out, that we just did not predict. And sure, you can see the historical antecedents, but history being history, it could have gone another way. And speaking of things going another way, that's where we come in. The Unitarian minister of the 19th century, Theodore Parker, notably said, "The arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends toward justice." Martin Luther King picked that up and quoted it. Parker and King may have had a greater faith in the universe having a moral arc than I do. I don't reckon it does. But I know this. If we want to make an arc bend, we put our weight on it. And we can bend it toward justice, toward kindness, toward love and compassion, toward gentleness and mercy. We'll be the ones who make the moral arc bend. And we've done it many times. In Parker's time, when he looked and wondered if we would see that long arc finally bring about abolition, and in King's time, seeing the next long-delayed chapter in the story of creeping, increasing justice for African Americans. It's uncertain. What will work? Will it be what worked before? We will try to learn from the past. And again, if we say we did everything right, we did everything that worked in another movement, it didn't work here, what did we do wrong? What is wrong with these other people? What is going on? Let us just know. You do the best you can. Sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. And sometimes something completely unexpected you didn't think was going to be on your side at all turns everything around. And suddenly the majority of U.S. Americans support something they were implacably against only 20 years before. Which brings me to the second way I hope we can take some hope from uncertainty. And that is that there's so much uncertainty in each human mind and spirit. Yeah, a lot. Way more than we know about ourselves. We tend to think that we're very certain. Right now, I'm thinking I'm an exception. I know what I'm doing. I have reasons for my beliefs, and I stick to them, and I'm consistent, but I know I'm fooling myself. The fact is that all the research shows people are not as set in their ways as we think. And you will be hearing a lot about that in the weeks to come through the lens of our benediction words from right here. What do those words have to tell us about our relationships with other people? What do they tell us about how to help our country strengthen its best tendencies and shun fascism? Well, plenty. But the temptation right now is to say, we know what kind of people are. We know what kind of country this is. Are you surprised? Some people say, well, this is America. It's always been like this. It's always been here. And the incoming president just brought it to the surface. Now we know. I mean, obviously, a majority of the people who got themselves out to vote voted for him. So that's not entirely wrong. Where it falls short as a theory of humanity is that everybody who goes to the polls and makes a decision is not the monolith we might think. None of us is consistent over time. All of us have ambivalence. One of the things that McRaney said was discovered by people who are trying to sway folks in favor of LGBT rights, specifically same-sex marriage in California back in the year of Prop 8, they found that the people who declared themselves implacably opposed were actually of two minds. Say they really had they knew gay people and had no problem with them, like, get married, I don't really care what you do, in some part of their minds. And in another part, a part very vulnerable to a particular ad campaign, they thought, oh, I want to control what my kid learns. And I don't like the idea of my kid going to school and learning a prince can marry a prince or she can marry a princess. What came out was flat. No, I'm against that. But what was inside was actually competing views. We're a lot more uncertain than we like to think. And that can be really scary, because what can be tapped in people with a few well-chosen words from a charismatic leader can be the hatred and the fear. But it can also be the compassion, the freedom, the sense of live your life, I'll live mine, let's leave each other alone. And sometimes a real passion for fighting for one another's freedoms. I find hope there too, and I hope you do too. We don't tend to see that uncertainty when we're arguing with each other. It brings out the most rigid in all of us. So I'm learning a lot from McRaney on how minds actually change. And I'll be sharing that with you along with other things over the weeks to come. I wish I could say something more cheerful than, I don't know. But it does help me to feel like, I don't know. We don't know what's going to happen next. But we do have a lot to say about it, a lot to do about it when we've got that energy. If you're still in a place that you want to curl up under the blankets, thanks for being here. Well done. And it's okay. Go get back under the blankets. There will be work to do when you're ready. That's really all I want to say in conclusion. Be with your feelings. Allow others to be with theirs. Turn toward community and connection. They really make a difference. And keep coming back, because we are the ones we have been waiting for. And this is the place that can guide us through the hard night. Blessings all. I just want to say, on Wednesday, I was having one of those feelings like, I don't want to come run a vigil. I don't want to be the grown-up. I want to curl up under the blanket. Maybe I can get my cat to join me there. But it was my job, so here I was. And as soon as I saw Kat and the way she'd set up these papers and these candles, as soon as we got our pictures going of beautiful things, and especially when people started coming in, beloveds from this community and people I've never met before coming in to just be in this space, I felt so much better, and I was so glad I had. I'm so grateful to this community. And as I often say in introducing our offering, that may be why you wish to give today as well. If you're moved by gratitude to the people here, to everybody who creates this place, you may choose to support with whatever financial resources you can this community. We create it, it creates us, and there's much reason for gratitude there. So you can use cash or check or the QR code or text info in the order of service as Christoph and Margaret play for us, and we receive and give our offering. Thank you. Will you please join in singing Keep On Moving Forward by Pat Humphreys? The words are in your order of service and up on the screen. I invite you to rise in body or spirit, and this is an a cappella song. I'm just going to lead you in singing it. If you didn't know the verse, you don't know it when you start in the first verse, you'll know it by the time we get to the second. Gonna keep on moving forward. Keep on moving forward. Keep on moving forward. Never turning back. Never turning back. We've all got things we can make percussion with. Our new chairs, our feet, our hands. We can go like this. Gonna keep on singing loudly. Keep on singing loudly. Keep on singing loudly. Never turning back. Never turning back. Gonna keep on loving boldly. Keep on loving boldly. Keep on loving boldly. Never turning back. Never turning back. Oh, I hear some harmony. Gonna reach across our border. Reach across our border. Reach across our border. Never turning back. Never turning back. One more time. Gonna keep on moving forward. Keep on moving forward. Gonna keep on moving forward. Never turning back. Never turning back. Never turning back. I have words I want to share. I know I have words I want to share, but I don't trust myself to know them quite by heart. They come from the Reverend Wayne Ornison. Yeah, go ahead and be seated. Choir, you're going to get up in a minute. Da, 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 da. Almost there. There we go. Take courage, friends. The way is often hard. The path is never clear, and the stakes are very high. Take courage. For deep down, there is another truth. You are not alone.
Always at your hand, may
everyone, whether you're online or here in the main hall, I hope you'll stay after the benediction for some conversation time. If you're here or close to UUCPA, come on over for second Sunday lunch, which is served in the fireside room, the room with the blue chairs, the blue doors right over there. And get to know somebody you haven't met before. Now, if you're online, please unmute yourself, turn on your video, and touch hands virtually like this, and we'll touch hands in whatever way feels right here. Go out into the world.